Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be another episode of Reforge Gaming News, looking at the Ashes of Creation new gameplay, showing off the character creator. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and kind of the why bother. There's multiple elements to character creation that I want to kind of discuss. We really like covering this game when they made the Unreal Engine 5 sort of debut. We covered that on this channel. Looking forward to its eventual release and wanted to give you guys a bit of a breakdown. We'll probably be covering the Elden Ring Radon nerf reversal tomorrow on the channel. I know you guys have enjoyed my Elden Ring coverage, and that will probably be something we break down tomorrow. That'll give people time to kind of test it and see what's going on. But we like to give you right here at the start of the stream my brief breakdown before we get into the discussion. This is a Reforge update. Ashes of Creation has revealed a lengthy look at their character creator, and I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the why bother. If you enjoy these very quick updates, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button. That way you don't miss my uploads. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I always love to see the character creation. I love to see the options and the depth, but I do have some things to say about this one in particular, as well as just character creation in general when you approach a game like this. Sometimes you spend a disproportionate amount of time, if you're like me, at the very beginning of the game, and that can lead to, you know, some fun, but also maybe sort of a waste of time. So let's just talk about the good. I think it's very obvious that a lot of care and passion has gone into this game, that this is a very well-built character creator. It seems very, in-depth, and it is nice to get a look at a non-human race. I don't know what level of customization they're going to give, or like how many races are in the game. Maybe somebody can leave a comment below or instruct me in the chat today if they know that information. I have followed this game, but not religiously closely, combing over every wiki and every bit of information, so I am anxious to hear how many races we can be in the game, and if that will be eventually shown in another video. I also think there's a customizable nature to the non-human character. It doesn't look canned. It doesn't look like something they just kind of thrown together. It looks like they put a significant amount of time into it. There are tons of depth and a lot of options for you to customize your character, to the point that they put somebody in the game that looked like Asmongold. We're fairly certain that was done on purpose. He obviously had a very funny reaction to that. But one of the things I do want to talk about is the bad. Well, there's nothing really bad. It's just that's an easy way to break down the video. There's nothing really bad. I mean, it kind of feels like just another RPG character builder. There's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of par for the course when you boot up a game like this. I would have liked to see maybe other non-human races, or maybe have them interacting with armor pieces, because from where I sit, that's kind of always the question. Somebody in chat is saying 9 races in total are planned. Thank you. That gets included in this video. So 9 races total. It would be nice to see some of those. Maybe they could do that in a future video. I don't expect one video to literally show me everything, so I'm not making that a criticism. Just a request. Hey, in future videos, it'd be great to see some of the non-human races, a couple more of the 9 total that you have planned. Also, just interaction with armor would be nice. This is something that I think more games are doing. They're allowing you to see your character, with nothing on but a loincloth, but they also let you see the character with endgame armor, so you can see how it interacts and how it looks when you're wearing a helmet or holding a shield, which is kind of what the last section of this video is about. Why bother? In so many RPGs, I spend tons of time on character customization, and it doesn't seem to really matter at all. You never really see your character ever again. You're wearing a helmet. You're covered in all this different stuff, so those tattoos and scars that you chose for your body aren't really there. Now, more games are letting you hide the helmet for this reason, because if you take the time to make your character really pretty, hot, or try to make it look like you as much as possible, you kind of want to see that in the game and in the wild. So it would be nice to see in another video exactly what they're going to let you do once in the game. I think the game continues to look very, very promising. The Unreal Engine's going to become a great standard going forward. I think you're going to see more and more games go to Unreal Engine 5 because of the freedom, the customization, and just the high graphical fidelity that you're going to get when using that engine. So let us know what you think in the comments below. Always remember to check out Reforge Gaming if you want to watch my live streams. And as always, hit subscribe and the bell button, and I'll see you in the next video. And I'll see the rest of you right now. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wanted to comb over this footage with you because we liked covering this game the last time it came out. I know a ton of you are going to be coming in talking about the Elden Ring thing. We will cover that tomorrow. That'll give people time to talk, to test it, to see if it's working well, to see how much of a damage reduction did they reverse on Radon. So apparently, it was unintentional or whatever. So we will be covering that tomorrow. So I don't want to hijack today about that. I didn't have time to suddenly divert to that and make new thumbnails and new topic discussion, all of that. Plus, it's going to give people time to test it. We like to really rely on the smarter data crunchers in the community on Reddit and other places to give us that opportunity to, make sure we know what we're talking about instead of just like coming forward and being like, here's the generic thing that they said they did. What's good, Snow? Dominus says they have not finished all the characters yet. Yo, what's good, Feed? Good to see you in the chat. Hide the helmet. Yeah. No, we're not playing the game of hide the helmet. If you're if you're wanting to support today's stream, be sure to smash the like button. We need 24 more likes to hit the first 100. That'll definitely help us. I don't know if this will pull as hard as it did last time we covered it. We got a great response from you guys, and so I actually was really impressed by this character creator. I think you're going to start to see more and more games go down this route. They're going to go down the route of Unreal Engine 5. Ashes of Creation, yes, it is an MMO on the horizon with no official launch date yet. What's good, Kill You? Good to see you in the chat. And so we don't have a definitive date yet for this game, but this is where I think we will start to see they start goofing around and they make it look like Asmongold. If you haven't seen the video yet, we'll let it loop a couple times. It's a pretty long video, like 40 minutes or something. So, happy Ramadan to you all. If you don't celebrate it, I hope you have a fantastic time. Yes, to you as well, Mithrax. Let's see here. Who else is in chat? I heard about this. I saw the thumbnail. It's Abruxa. Somebody call a Witcher. Good morning, Gritter. How are you? Good to see you, Derek, there. Ashes looks crazy for character customization. They did a 1-to-1 of Asmongold. Fairly certain Alpha 2 is going to be announced in the near future, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, the question at this point would be, when exactly are they going? Here, let me put myself up here kind of out of the way. When do they see this getting out from behind closed doors, right? Voyager plus pre-order pack is $375. Wow. Hex with a 15, not Hex. Hilly with a 15-month resubscription and a tier 2. Voyager plus pre-order pack is $375. What are you talking about? Is that something you can do in this game? Are they doing the whole starter pack founders thing, or are you talking about something else? Game looks good. I agree. What's good, Lost Frames? Anthony, good to see you. Good to see you, Zinthos. Played Kirby after watching your stream on Friday. Love the game. Yeah, my wife and I played more off stream since we're not really going to be able to use Friday nights to play games to completion. Character looks like he drinks Giant's milk. Oh, yeah. Guys, thank you for using the coffee command, Blindfold Truth. Guys, don't forget all the various ways you can support the channel. We're going to start doing this on the screen. It'd be great. I think we're going to set like a 5-member goal every day and 5 coffee orders every day just to see if we can hit little daily goals. Just something fun to do. Kind of like we have like goals, Get us 100 likes on the video. We only need 3 more. We always hit those like milestones. And who wants to be the first coffee order of the day to get us on the path to 5 orders, or the first member of the day to get us on 5 members for the day? Oh, here it is. Ashes of Creation. So they do have our Voyager Plus pre-order pack is what Hilly was referring to. It will allow access to our persistent server Alpha 2 test. This pre-order pack includes access to the Alpha 2, Beta 1 and 2, 9 months of game time, which is $135 value. So there will be a subscription fee, it seems, to this game. $125 in Embers, a skin, and a name reservation. So for $375, you get $135 of game access, $125 of in-game marketplace credits, and they put no pay to win. So I'm assuming these are going to be for cosmetics. So that is $260 right there. So the other $115, I'm supposing here, is for the access to betas, alphas, and all of the cosmetics. In addition to cosmetic items, you will also be entitled to purchase future monthly cosmetics and add-ons for the Voyager Plus level. The cosmetics are only available during the month they are featured. Yeah, so I mean, if it's not pay to win, I don't care about this kind of a thing. It's totally optional. If somebody wants to get in as early as humanly possible, they can. You know, they're buying, as far as I can tell, they're buying mostly cosmetics. They're buying, you know, early access as well as 9 months of access to the game. So if you take the $135 and you divide it by 9, they're going to be charging $15 a month of a subscription fee. So I think that's going to be one of the things that some people are going to have a bit of an awakening about, and it is the fact that they make these games and they excuse me, they need to charge money so you can play them. Like, you're not just going to be able to play this the way that you play other, you know, console games with no subscription fee. This is obviously going to be a PC game as well. Character creation is very detailed. Yeah, I agree. They've put a lot of work into this. I've watched Asmongold watch this vid on the character creator, which isn't even finished yet, and it looks extraordinary. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's not even finished yet, so it looks like they're going to let people go in and do individual sections of the body and face. You'll stick to Final Fantasy? Yeah, I mean, I could see people saying, I've only got room for one MMO. I've only got room for one subscription, and, you know, they may decide that they can't add another one. There it is, first coffee order of the day. One out of the 5 that we're going to shoot for every day. Blindful Truth ordered a dark roast and a light roast. Thank you so much for doing that. I greatly appreciate it. First order of the day. It's got some metahuman vibes. Might be more than 15, as that is when you buy the 9 up front. Well, no, I don't think they would say that. When they say that's a 9-month value, I think they're wanting you to walk away from it and conclude that it's $15 a month. Man, it'd be weird if it was higher than that. I'm 100% playing this MMO, says Disordered Sama. It's supposed to be an MMO made for MMO players by an MMO lover. Let's gauge interest of the audience here. Ashes of Creation. Interested in playing it. Yes or no? We're going to go really simple today. Yes or no, are you interested in playing Ashes of Creation? Just want to gauge the audience's, interest today. Yo, good morning, Sorcerer of Havoc. Good to see you. You completed Elden Ring? No, I did not. We just can't cover Elden Ring every day. We'll be playing Elden Ring this afternoon, don't worry. I played Elden Ring off stream to get myself Stonesword keys so that we stop running into that issue. I think I have 13 or 14 Stonesword keys, and I got myself in a good place to get stones so that we can max level my swords. So I was only playing off stream to get currency, because that doesn't make the greatest video, like me poking around and looking for Stonesword keys. Is this an action MMO like Black Desert? Now, the Ashes of Creation gameplay that we have seen up to now, they seem to be moving toward more of an action-style game of combat. I've continued to say that will be a continued thing. I think that MMOs are going to continue to grow in popularity, but I also think they're going to leave behind the sort of tabbed combat systems. I think they're going to go more towards action-adventure style combat, action-adventure style gameplay. And the reason they're going to do that is for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it makes the game more accessible to other people that maybe have never played an MMO before. It also just is, in general, I think, going to be more accepted by the gaming community at large. I think, secondly, even fans of MMO games are open to that reality. Like, listen, the old style of combat in these games doesn't need to be the standard for forever. They're allowed to evolve. We don't, technical limitations is one of the primary reasons those old games are like that. They didn't do it because it made for a particularly good experience. It was because, well, this is what we got, right? This is how we can do it. My interest depends on two things. How long does it take to win the game, and do their lips move? Also, any money you put into this game, says Distorted, right now is to support the game's development. It's not for the early access and betas and alphas. Those are included in for supporting, but the devs urge the purpose is not for access. MJ says, I said no to the poll. As a dad, I just don't have the time to sink into an MMO. Elden Ring has provided me with everything I need right now. I hear you on that. MMOs are tough. They're tough to commit to. They'd much rather see the community engage with them and voice their thoughts. Silent Warrior says, I would be more interested in playing if it was FTP, free to play, with bonuses for subscriptions similar to Lost Ark. I would need to see how the game is before committing to $15 a month. Right, if we're honest, the subscription fee is a pretty big barrier when there are games that don't require one, because you can just boot up a game or buy it once, and then that's kind of the end of it, right? If you think about even in the realm of New World, you buy the game one time and then that's it. Like, if you don't like it, you can put it down, you can play it for a couple of weeks. A game like this, even though $15 a month isn't that much, you might feel like, oh man, I better play a bunch this month to really decide whether or not I enjoy it. And that, I wonder if that paralysis or that stigma is going to be a hindrance in this game filling its funnel. Now, I say that, not being too serious about it, because if we're honest, usually MMOs don't have too much of a problem filling their player funnels at launch, okay? I think people are sort of anxious or amped to get into new MMOs. I think New World showed that. I think more and more the MMO genre. Hey, another order of coffee. 2 orders already. 2 bags of light roast for Adam. Thank you so much, Adam. We're trying to get 5 coffee orders a day. That right there is 2 already. We only need 3 more. We're also trying to get 5 new members a day. If you've never hit the join button or used the join command in chat, consider doing so. Be the first person to kind of start that count today. I would say no to a sub if the option was free to play, but sells gambling and pay to win. Hang on. You would say no to a sub if the option was free to play, but sells gambling and pay to win. Yeah, I mean, as far as they've said, there's no pay to win in this game. Cosmetics only. Had to get some more since I ran out of the Frickmas. That was an amazing coffee. Thank you, Adam. I greatly appreciate that. There's all kinds of footage, says Distorted, of the development of this game, gameplay and the alpha tests, and a lot of the systems and enemies. It's a work in progress still. It's not coming out yet. I think this is kind of a new development in game building. They're like just sort of letting people see what they're doing and bringing people along. That's kind of like a new thing, right? Oh, you would not say no to a sub if the option was free to play but sells gambling and pay to win. There's too many negatives in that sentence. It's too early in the morning. I'm not understanding what you're saying. Every server will be different, says Dominus. Every server will have a different story as well. The story will be based off of the player's choices and things the community of the server does. No server will be the same. See, New World sold people on that idea. Oh, I love the freedom with the tattoo here. That's so great. Just put it on there however you want. Just rotate in place. That's really, really dope. Yeah, they bragged about the same thing with New World, but then I think that there's an underlying weakness there, because servers can turn kind of sour when you give player freedom that level of influence. Like when player freedom and choice literally dictates the experience of other players at that degree, that can be pretty, I think, frustrating. If he has to choose between paying a sub or getting a free-to-play with pay-to-win, he'll choose the sub. Oh, okay. I mean, I assumed that because we've had conversations about this before. A $15 sub fee, says King Salty, definitely incentivizes you to play. If you get this game, it will quickly become your main interest. I felt the same pressure when I played EVE Online. Time not played is time wasted. Well, and that's one of the things I'm always interested in. So Ashes of Creation gameplay that they've shown up to this point, I think looks very, very good. But you guys know what I always say. I want to know what the content loop is. Like, is it something that I can play like I played New World? Like, I'm a streamer, so I had to put New World down because things moved forward and we couldn't stay in one game. But if I wasn't a streamer, I probably would have played New World for a little bit longer than I did. I would have gotten into some of the end game. I would have gotten into some of the end game loops, but the end game loops had issues and had problems, and I would have run into those issues and problems and probably then, you know, played less or walked away, okay? But in the realm of games like this, games like MMOs, I want to know, like, is the content loop going to be really, really satisfying? I played New World for 15 minutes and I was like, this feels really, really good. New World's content loop didn't fall off the rails until the end game, right? So I feel like there's almost two things you need to well establish with your audience. Number one is, what's the content loop going to feel like? At an experiential level, what am I going to be running around doing? Okay? If I play Ashes of Creation gameplay for 10 minutes, I'll probably have a decent grasp on that. You all right? Yo, what's good, Pugs? Good to see you. You know, is it going to feel good to be in combat, run around, cast a spell, swing a sword, etc.? Then, I actually think you need to do it in almost three phases. Number one, it's just the feel of the game, right? Does the game feel good? Number two, what's early and mid-game feel like? Like, am I leveling at a decent clip? Am I advancing in the world? Do I feel like I'm sort of in charge of my destiny? Because when we played New World, we got about halfway through the leveling process and we were like, yeah, this is bad. This slows down way too much. Then we got past mid-game and got closer to late game and we were like, this isn't just bad. This is like intentionally designed to be kind of stupid, right? It's like, what on earth? Are you going to let me be, you know, in charge of anything? Or am I purely being sort of wrung out like a rag, right? Oh, you're getting surgery to get rid of your glasses. Nice. So that all needs to, I think, be established before I can say whether or not I enjoy a game, because if the feel of the game is good, and then the early and mid-game feels really good, then the final question is always, what's end-game loop look like? What are we doing? What are we doing in the end game? Am I running 3 activities over and over again until my eyeballs fall out? Or do you have a broad end game? Do you have depth? Do you have customization of build? Is min-maxing something I can achieve? Is the loot that I'm seeking something I have volition over? Do I have player agency? Do I have player intentionality? Or does it feel like this big RNG fruitless endeavor? These are all questions that I feel like a game has to answer before I can say whether or not it's a good MMO or a good game in general. New World made it feel like you mattered to the game, being part of a faction and growing your world. Ashes of Creation is going to be better on a larger scale. I think leveling is anticipated to be much slower in Ashes compared to New World, says Nation. Doing it better. Oh, they're just doing it better to a larger scale. Yeah. See, as soon as a game says that they're going to do that. So Ashes of Creation walks out and says, hey, we're going to have this organic player dictated server thing. You know what I always say? I'm like, okay, that's a really big risk because players are terrible. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, players take the path of least resistance. Players find ways to play in degenerate ways. And when they do that, it has an effect on the experience of other players if they have the ability to influence the server. Are we talking about the faction systems? I mean, not really, no. I mean, that was a system in New World. I don't know what the Ashes of Creation gameplay loop looks like. I have no idea, but we know very little from where I sit. I mean, I know they've outlined a couple of things, but when we watched the gameplay months ago, I got the impression they were evolving the vision and the direction of the game as they were building it. They were going away from like traditional MMO feel. They wanted it to feel more action, adventure, and free-flowing. You know, currently hooked on Forbidden West. Wish it was on PC. I can't hate the PS5 controller more than I do. Man, I've actually switched almost entirely to it if I can. I love it. I get why people don't like it, though. It is different. I don't like the D-pad being above my left thumb. Hilly says, a sub is good if you're not sure about the game. Get a month to try and have the option to walk away. A monthly bill always sharpens a person's focus. Yeah, as long as it's... There we go. There's Asmongold. As long as it's not like pay to access the game and then in addition to that pay the subscription fee. So you're kind of hitting me twice, right? A Paradox Gaming Network has it covered. We know very little. There's literally tons of info in the public. Well, I'm sorry. I know very little. I shouldn't have said we. I was speaking as like we've only covered it one time. Sorry. Not saying that like nobody knows. Feel free to educate me because like that's part of what I do here. I literally can't research every game in existence. I don't have the time. So sometimes I just boot up, throw up the gameplay, and I'm like, yo, how's this work, chat? And somebody in chat breaks it down, right? So, oh, the New World systems. Yeah, Dominus was asking about the faction systems in the New World systems. Yeah, the faction system in the New World stuff was like, it was such a cool concept, but it created a lot of frustration because too many people could ruin a server if they did it right. Ashes of Creation is a cross between race and citizenship instead of faction-based. But you have a node, more orcs dominate the town, you will have a more orcish look, but all citizens of that node contribute to its growth. Okay. This blending is a pretty neat feature, says Nation. Going to be interesting if we can create NPCs to run your Freehold Tavern. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot you can do with the character. As I said in the open, how much are you even going to see your character is always my question. Because like, well, once I throw a helmet on, you're not going to be able to see it anymore, right? They said it's going to be pay, sub to play, and no box price. Oh, so no box price. Thank you for answering that question, Hellberg. If you're new and you've never been here before and you are interested in Ashes of Creation gameplay, we will certainly dive in when the game comes out. We're coming over their character creator right now. They just made Asmon look a little bit different. They loaded up a character that looked just like Asmongold. And, what games with subs allow you to just sub and not purchase the game? Apparently this one. There's no box price, according to Hellberg. Distorted says, also, best in slot gear in the game will not be gotten in raids. It will be out in the world and limited as in one of it or so. So not everyone will be able to have the best of the best. That's the detail I remember from when we covered this last. That, like... The world will have that organic feel that like not everybody can go and get the 7th or 10th or 100th, 1000th version of a weapon. That's not the case. Like you may get a really good weapon or something that then if it is best in slot, other people can't get it, right? That actually was something that I remember us talking about and feeling like that's a giant risk. Because of the way that people play, because of the way that people will absolutely grind and find the fastest possible ways to get everything, you know, that can be an issue because then you end up with people feeling like, as they felt in New World, like, well, my server is screwed, man. This is over. We've already kind of lost. We've already kind of, you know. It's been picked clean, right? It's been picked clean. Too many people have basically combed over the server, right? Going for a Peter Dinklage look there, yeah. Well, now we're giving him a Meredith haircut. Oh nope, just kidding. It can be ruined quick, says Collins. I can't get the best gear unless I spend countless hours. That's a terrible idea, says Silent Warrior. Is the game on Steam? Game's not out yet. I'm not sure where they're going to put it. I don't know if they've actually said that. So free to download, pay to play. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what you guys think of that, chat. Like having an organic gear feeling. Like if somebody gets the best gear for that server, is that piece suddenly not available? People need to do work to hold their spots, though, says Dominus. If you don't put in the work, someone else does. They can usually take the position. I don't remember that detail. Basically, one guy can have the Demon Sword of Soul Destruction and no one else can. I don't know if they're going to do that. The guy making this game is an old school MMO kind of guy, so expect a lot of things that aren't super non-MMO player accessible, including losing things on death and PvP death. That's something that I actually think is going to be a huge turnoff. I think the greatest risk that they're taking in this game is that PvP is basically on all of the time, right? PvP is basically on all of the time, and if you don't want to do PvP, they're obviously saying that there's going to be consequences for people that do PvP and people that attack others, so that, you know, there's an incentive to not do it. But the concern is always, you know, just how much is that going to interfere with my gameplay session, right? Because we all know how bad Sea of Thieves can go for you, and then the next night be totally fine. And again, that's a game where there's virtually no disincentivization to do PvP. You can basically do it at no risk of loss. And in this game, they're going to try, from what I understand it, they're going to try and have a soft negative reinforcement or negative motivation to not be constantly just wailing on people. If you take part in PvP, you can lose your gear, but if you stay non-combative, you don't really lose anything. Eve is the same way. You lose what you lose. It can be a pain sometimes. It makes combat an adrenaline rush, though. That reiterated the detail about only one of the best in slot item literally in the stream with this character creation. It's still planned. So they're literally saying, like, a best in slot item on a server, there's only going to be one. So what's the chasm of difference between a best in slot sword and a not, you know what I mean, like the one underneath of it? So yes, for sure, one demon sword, and little Timmy will be keeping it from your grasp. Only corrupted players have a small chance to drop gear. You become corrupted if you kill non-PvP players over and over. See, yeah, there it is. So there's the disincentivization. That's how that works. So if you continue to kill non-PvP players, you will become corrupted, and corrupted players have a small chance to drop gear. So as long as you're not doing that, it's just going to be more, it sounds like it's going to be more of a nuisance if you get killed by somebody when you're not intending to do PvP. It's going to suck if your character does not look like this in game during gameplay. Well, and I kind of said that during the open. I always wonder, you go down to this detail of like hair and scars and eye color. I mean, this guy's looking kind of crazy, right? So the question is like, are there opportunities for my character to show up and look like this? Because generally, you know, you're kind of back behind your character. You get some awesome armor and an awesome helmet. I mean, helmets in games like this, you know, usually they let you turn them off. But I mean, I don't know how often I want to do that if I've gotten something that actually looks really, really good. So character creation is always interesting. I guess in my mind, it's one of those things where it's there if it really matters to you. If you really want to make sure your character looks amazing and you never wear a helmet in the game, then the option here is for you. You can go nuts. And the funny thing is, I always do it. I always boot up and take a ton of time with character creation. If you like casual MMOs, turn away. This game will not be made for you, says Distorted. The guy making this game is focused on making a great MMO, not reaching as wide of an audience, milquetoast mindset like super large companies. I guess my thought on that is, here's the risk I'm imagining, Distorted. Are there enough people that really want the hardcore, like classic MMO? Are there enough of those people? Like, my own theory is that if you market research this, the demographic that can play a little bit less hardcore, but not necessarily casual, like more in the mid lane, I think there's way more of those people. I think a lot of that has to do with stages of life. I feel like a lot of the guys, when they were in like late high school, early college years, that were super hardcore into MMOs and put in all those hours in World of Warcraft and EverQuest and stuff, I just feel like a lot of those guys are in that stage of life now where they can't do that anymore. And I say guys not to be like sexist, but I do think, generally speaking, the larger portion of the gaming audience is male. The larger portion of MMOs in the past and now are still largely male. Okay, that doesn't mean that's the only people you target. But I do think, in a general way, a lot of those young men are grown men now, and they are not necessarily in a position to put those types of hours in. That doesn't mean there aren't tons of people that can. I just wonder, it's like, I don't know, man, that you're cutting off a huge section of the market. There are enough of those people for him. For him, it's a passion project. He's making the kind of MMO he's always wanted and that MMO players enjoy. Right, so as you said, I think it was you, it's an MMO for MMO fans by an MMO fan, right? Hardware group sizes, says Hilly. The minimum goal is 500 players on a single battlefield. I think we'll be able to hit 500 v 500, but we shall see. Ashes of Creation is designed for solo players as well as large or small groups. Parties up to 8 in a single group. Raids will have 40-man groups. Content will be tailored to 40, 16, and 8-person group sizes. Arenas will have 1-man, 3-man, 5-man, and possibly 20-man free-for-all. There won't specifically be guild versus guild arenas, but team-based matchmaking allows teams to face other teams. Castle sieges are expected to have a minimum of 250 by 250 players on a single battlefield, with the possibility of increasing up to 500 by 500 over time. The idea behind an 8-person group is to allow us to really amplify party roles and to create the need for each of the archetypes in every party. Content is not locked behind guilds. Mechanics exist within larger conflicts of small groups and even solo players to impact the battle. This includes systems that will likely focus on single group size participants while the larger battle is occurring. Yeah, so I'm really interested to see what solo gameplay would look like then. Because if there's something we learned from New World, I mean, an Ashes of Creation gameplay could run into similar trends. There just seems to be a lot of people that want to boot up and just kind of do their own thing. They can't be bothered. I think this is again indicative of the player base and the population at large moving to different phases of life. It's just extremely hard to be like, hey, all the boys are on, let's go. It's like, well, no, I got home from work and no one's on yet, or only 1 or 2 people are on. I'm just going to run by myself, right? I'm just going to go get some stuff done. So I would be interested to see what exactly solo gameplay would look like. I'm telling you, this sounds like another WildStar. In what ways? In what ways do you feel like it's another WildStar? I look forward to the ocean content, planning on being a master shipwright. Doing your own thing in an MMO, the worst gameplay ever in my opinion. I don't get it. I don't think it's to be understood. It's simply a thing, right? It's simply a thing. Like, it's almost like going, if you go to a town with tons of married people, everybody's kind of married off and everybody's kind of paired up, and you open a singles bar, you'd be like, I don't get it. I don't get why no one's coming. There's nothing to get. It's just like, that's just the way that it is in that town. There's no way, like, you're not trying to understand that it just simply is that way. I think it just simply is a factor right now in gaming demographics, that there's just tons of people that are like, bro, I don't have time for all this. I just want to play a game and not deal with all of this. You know what the most interesting part about it is? The real question isn't why are they playing the MMO that way. The question is, why were they attracted to an MMO to begin with? And I think what it is everybody wants that Skyrim experience. They want to just boot up and do all the cool stuff and go see the world and go see the map. And then that's kind of the end of it. That's kind of the end of their journey. They don't, they don't have this strong desire to play with a bunch of other people. Does that make sense? Creature says, I play MMOs and I really enjoy being able to do my own thing sometimes. I shouldn't need a group to do everything. Yeah, I think needing a group for certain activities is completely normal, and I don't think anybody would ever make a very good logical or reasoned criticism to say that, like, oh no, I should never be required to do group play. That's just kind of stupid. Like, they're going to build raids, they're going to build dungeon. I'm sure there's going to be Ashes of Creation raids, and, well, we've already read about them, right? There's going to be raids, there's going to be content tailored to big group sizes of 40, 16, and 8. There's going to be big battles of maybe close to 500 people versus 500 people, or 500 total split down the middle, 250 v 250. And it'd be kind of weird if they argued that, like, oh, all that stuff should be tailored to a solo player. So I don't necessarily know if I would ever take serious somebody saying, oh, I think they should tailor this I think they should tailor this to solo player experience, right? I stopped watching because of your Elden Ring coverage. Didn't want spoilers. Now I'm back. No context, but out of 10, what'd you give Elden Ring? I give Elden Ring a solid 9. I have my own criticisms about things in the game and things that they do. There's certain things in boss fights that I find to be annoying. You know, I've seen some people talk about, you know, it doesn't, the absence of feeling like you're 1v1ing or dueling bosses. It feels like a lot of AoE, which the reason that they do it is they don't want melee roly-poly one size fits all. They want you to feel like you got to kind of move and get back and I don't know, but I give it a solid 9 out of 10. I love it. It's a beautiful game. I think it's incredibly well built. I think it's deserving a lot of the praise that it got. But I do think from a philosophical standpoint, they make some decisions with boss fights, especially late game, that, you know, I find annoying. But again, there are plenty of people that are like, that's just from software, da-da-da-da-da. Now, we'll be covering the Radon. They undid the nerf. We'll cover that tomorrow. I would have covered it this morning, but it happened right before we went live, so I really didn't have the chance to pivot and get everything built for that. I had already set everything up for this. But that'll give us an opportunity to let people kind of crunch the numbers. So if you're new and you've never been here before, let me pause the gameplay. Usually we are in this scene, having a talk show, having discussions, and covering variety gaming news. I am a safe for work broadcaster. People kind of treat me like video game radio. Hit subscribe, hit the bell button, that way you don't miss these streams. I thought this was going to be a really strong pull. The last time we covered this game, it was a really strong pull. Apparently, either YouTube's acting up or the core audience wasn't interested in this. I actually thought people were going to be extremely interested in seeing this. But this doesn't seem to be a strong pull this morning, which is okay. Not everything is going to get, you know, tons of, not every stream and topic is going to be a home run. However, if you're new and never been here before, we always love to meet new folks. If you're interested in this game, other games, MMOs, Elden Ring. Tomorrow we'll be playing the brand new Star Wars Lego Skywalker Saga. We'll be playing that tomorrow afternoon. We will be playing Elden Ring this afternoon as well. I was actually awake and playing Elden Ring at 4 a.m. Eastern. They did maintenance, stayed up all night playing it even though I have work. Game is addicting. It is. We heard you were broadcasting in the Ashes Discord 10 minutes ago. Oh, really? Oh, well, maybe we'll get an influx of people. That's cool that they did that. Listen, I love covering games like this. Now, obviously, if you watched my coverage of New World and Lost Ark, I get to a point where I have to put the game down because I can't become a Lost Ark channel or a New World channel, or even with Elden Ring, we're starting to drift away from, we can't cover it every single day. But I will certainly put a ton of time in this game when it comes out. Now, from everything we've heard, though, this is a game that's going to rub me the wrong way, and that doesn't make it a bad game. It just means that I won't be able to play it at length, and here's why. And keep in mind, none of this makes it a bad game, it just makes it not a fit for me. The constant PvP and the more classic MMO feel, as well as like the, you know, best in slot items in a server will only exist like one time. All that stuff sounds great for hardcore MMO players, but it sounds terrible for me. Like, I don't think that I'll enjoy that, right? That doesn't make it bad. I certainly wouldn't criticize it and say, hey, don't do that or whatever, tailor the game to me. But it certainly will mean that my time with the game will likely be short-lived, right? It'll likely be short-lived, because I like games like this, but I'm not in that position to play in the way that the game needs me to, or not needs me to, but certain games just ask of you things that you can't give to them. As an example, really hardcore fighting games, right? Like, I just can't commit to getting to a place where I'm good and enjoying them, right? People saw the thumb and thought it was Harry Potter. I don't think so. You know, if you're going, it literally says Ashes of Creation on, you know, half of the thumbnail. And this is something that I think gamers need to work on in general, is allowing a game to be a game. And not like, oh, this game should be tailored to me or be different or whatever. I think a lot of people approach New World in that way. Like, they wanted New World to be like a classic hardcore MMO, and I was like, I just don't think they built it for that. They certainly built it to where you could play it like crazy for a while and really enjoy yourself and be sort of a hardcore player, a hardcore MMOer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to do that for forever. Now, some of that's on the players and some of that's on the devs, because, like, obviously the New World devs didn't build the greatest, you know, they didn't build the greatest end game, right? Elden Ring you're almost done with, though are not like 7 boss tops. You could even skip a few and just do the last 4 big ones. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to handle all that. I would like to do them all. The character is supposed to be Asmongold. Well, in a second, they make him look exactly like Asmongold. It just takes a second. Yo, good morning, Night. What type of game is this? Yeah, it's an MMO. It's an MMO. Yeah, if you're interested in Ashes of Creation gameplay, I want to hear from you. We're 30 minutes in. Yeah, even votes on the poll are really low. Usually around now we have 400 votes on a good one. So we don't have a lot of interest in this game. Ashes of Creation, interested in playing it. It's split right down the middle. So it's not very promising. I don't know if, again, it's just, is it because it's too hardcore? Is it because you've not heard of it? Is it because, are you burnt out on MMOs? Are you kind of anti-sub? Are you anti-sub games? I know there's a lot of people that just will not play a game if it's got a subscription service. They just kind of stay away. Is there a release date? No. Basically, right now, they've done an Alpha 1. As far as I know, there'll be an Alpha 2, and then a Beta 1 and a Beta 2. And you can pay to be like a founder and get a bunch of dope stuff and get like 9 months of access once the game launches, and get access to all of those alphas and betas. But it's fairly expensive. I'll be honest, it's the first time I've heard of it, tuning in for the Lono factor only. Okay. When we covered the engine, we got a huge response. We were extremely pleased the last time we covered this game. Sometimes I wonder if when games are in the oven this long, if people start to drift. We did an Unreal Engine 5 breakdown 3 months ago, and it went very well. I remember we a ton of people came in that day. So it's just one of those things where I wonder sometimes when games are in development this long, if people are just like, that's great, and then they kind of put it off their radar because there's not much to say other than, yeah, they're working on it and it's coming out, you know? Sometimes I wonder, because like this is a new thing that developers are doing. They're being more transparent and they're letting people see behind the curtain. I wonder if over time that people are becoming fatigued with that. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, that's great, but like, when's it going to be done? It's almost like too transparent, right? Sorry, my 2 kids say 1 MMO is enough, plus this sounds like a nightmare for my time investment with constant PvP and item rarity, says Killshot. Yeah, it'll be PC only. K. Billy says, the concept of unique items is very appealing to me. Imagine a unique sword that a character has and is hunted by other players hoping to take it. This legendary item changes hands many times. Well, apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, the Ashes experts here, you only drop it if you're cursed or whatever, and you're only that if you've been killing a bunch of non-PvP players. Kill You says, it's because it's PC only for me. If this came on Xbox, I'd 100% be playing. I'm good with hardcore games, even though I don't have hardcore time. Me and my buddies will have a good time either way. Nation says, I got really hyped early on. That's it, yeah, if you're corrupted. So yeah, if you get like a unique sword, you're not at risk of dropping it unless you corrupt yourself by killing a bunch of non-PvP players. So I guess that concept would be cool, potentially. People might really hate that idea, right? They finally find an amazing piece of gear and they die and lose it, right? Somebody kills them and then it's gone. That might be pretty irritating. Item drops only happen at high levels of corruption. Yeah, and I think that's probably necessary. Like, imagine finding... Imagine finding like a really amazing piece of gear and the next day you boot up and you get kind of like ambushed and then you lose it. Like, I think that'd be like extremely untethering. It'd be really hard to foster loyalty to the game if you feel like you constantly are losing things that, you know, you were really excited about, because it's pretty easy to get jumped in games like this if you're not careful, especially if people are bored and the game's been out for a while and, you know, folks start kind of cannibalizing their server or, you know, sort of playing in the degenerate way. That's why I said, you know, Ashes of Creation gameplay experientially, number one, needs to feel good. Number two, I'm interested in the early and mid game, and then what's end game shake out to be, because if that's the result... Like, if players get bored, that's always going to be the potential reality, is that they just start cannibalizing the server. And then you're in a spot where, you know, it's hard to enjoy the game because you are just sort of early. Like, late adopters, I think, can really, really feel the pain of games like this if they don't get in early. You drop varying percentages of gathered or processed goods carried depending on flagging state on death. Okay. So that's a setback in the realm of like carried goods, like basically varying levels of currency, because carried goods are ultimately a lot of times some form of a currency or another. If we could get about 20 more likes on the video, that would be amazing. We might be able to jumpstart this thing. We're not an hour in just yet, and if we can get 200 likes and some really good chat activity and poll activity before we hit the 1 hour mark, we might be able to turn the rudder on this stream. My only worry is PvP players use non-combative players as meat shields to turn combatants corrupted and get their gear to drop. Well, according to Unknown System Error, Ashes, according to Unknown System Error, you only drop gear at like a really, really high level of corruption. Currency as in gold is never dropped, just resources. Right, and resources are their own form of currency, but yeah, you're not dropping gold. There is no AOE flagging. The guy looks like he had a bit of the sweet, delicious meth. Yeah, he's had some of Satan's rocks or whatever. What is that called? It's not marijuana's the devil's lettuce. I don't know what you call the other stuff. In my opinion, if they want people to be a part of the subscription game, they should at least have a playable demo of the game for all to try. That's the only way to get people to trust. Well, and that's the thing is, yeah, how do you fill the funnel? If you have a subscription fee as a potential barrier for entry, then you need something else to fill the funnel. And I know somebody already said this morning, well, the guy that's designing this is not interested in filling the funnel. He wants to build an MMO for MMO players, right? The devil's lettuce makes you handsomer. Does it really? Not really. You have so many people streaming the game, you don't really need a demo. Yeah, that's probably good feedback. With that many people being able to stream it, I mean, do you really need a demo? I'm interested, but I'm not a fan of a subscription service in-game, says Fancy Man. Forbidden Mineral. Hit the like. I was watching last time you were fighting Melania. Some guy said something about you banned him. I was laughing so hard. Good content, man. Yeah, there was a couple people just being nasty. Like, I don't think people understand that when I play Elden Ring, I don't read from the From Software Bible, man. Like, I'm critical of fights. I'm critical of fights and don't enjoy certain aspects, like, of games. Like, maybe on a replay, and that's the thing I think people forget. I think people play and, like, they've played the dancer 3 and 4 times and beaten her 3 or 4 times. They forget that the first time they played her, they hated her. They forget that the first time they played Cinder, they hated him and hated certain aspects. Well, yeah, and then you go back 3 or 4 times and you've seen the Matrix and you know how to get through everything, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, this is all totally fine. I don't know. I think a lot of the From Software fans forget themselves. I think they forget from whence they came, and they see somebody irritated with certain aspects and they want to get preachy. There is no trial of Ashes of Creation gameplay. There is no testing phase. Oh, there is no testing phase currently going on. There's Alpha 1 gameplay videos out there in Unreal 4 if you want to see last year's testing. Elden Ring coming to an end, kind of. What's your most probable next game? I have no idea. I really, really don't. I was thinking it'd be really, really fun to do New Game Plus and take that victory lap after New Game Plus 1, maybe do a new character, maybe play with the community, you know, just always do co-op or something. But I feel like we would just get stream sniped the whole time. I don't know. You know, it's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of good games coming out. PC players will be able to play Lego Star Wars on April 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to have to do... So the second show tomorrow, we'll have to do like an hour-long waiting room, like intro. If at one point in time this game was potentially announced for 2020 release, that's why there's currently no hype. It's just a game that's been announced and is in development. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I said that. This is new territory. Developers are deciding to sort of take the veil down and let people see everything. Maybe not everything, but like they're letting people see the lengthy process. The problem with that is that it's a lengthy process. Right? Like, imagine starting a YouTube channel and a TikTok and all those different things, and you're going to document the building of like a skyscraper. After a couple of weeks and months, I think people would just get bored. They would be like, this is taking a really, really, really long time, right? And I think people just get detached. You know what I mean? Look forward to Star Wars gameplay. Seems like a better game to watch than play. Yeah, I'll be curious to see what the turnout is, because we had great turnout for the coverage last week, and I was kind of worried because I know there's like a stigma about Lego games, but they're so fun, and that one looks really promising, so we'll be playing that one tomorrow. Tomorrow's talk show will center around the Radon nerf getting reversed in Elden Ring. I started New Game Plus, but was so burnt out by then I need a break for a few months. Was a fun 100 hours, though. Oh, yeah, 100 hours is a lot. That's a lot. Let's check the poll here. It's still pretty much split down the middle, with most people saying no. 300, yeah, we haven't even cracked 300 votes yet. Ashes of Creation, interested in playing it. And we've got 55% saying no, 45% saying yes. If you're new tuning in and you're very much interested in Ashes of Creation gameplay, maybe you've been following it, maybe you're in the Discord, we'd love to hear from you. We have open dialogue here about the games and coverage, and we kind of run it's basically like a talk show, radio show about video games, and I am safe for work. And so if you're enjoying the coverage, hit subscribe. We'd love to hear from you in chat. Yeah, we played Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. There's nothing there, though. The marketing for it and the name of it did really poorly on YouTube. If they would have called it Borderlands 4, it would have crushed. But they called it Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and everybody thinks it's freaking DLC. So both times I played it, it did poorly, which was really disappointing because it's probably the best Borderlands game out. It's the best of all of them. It really pulls from everything they've learned. It's really embracing what those games should be. and no one cares because everybody thinks it's a DLC. They should have called it Borderlands 4. It's disappointing. It looked good. It is good. It's a good game. It's a really good game. I think the name killed it. I think they confused everybody because about a month to 2 months before it came out, they released Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep. So you're setting a very confusing stage for people. They're like, what the frick game is this? Is it a DLC? You know? That's why last week when we talked Bethesda, people said 1 year out is the way to go. Right. Because people get fatigued, right? So we talked about Starfield last week, and if you're feeling similar about Ashes of Creation, I'd love to hear from you. With Starfield, it's like they've barely showed anything. And I don't want to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I'm like, bro, you got to show us something. And people are like, nope, Lono, Bethesda's going to wait. They're going to wait until they're 6 months out, and then they're going to blast us with gameplay and get everybody excited, and it's going to work, okay? If you contrast that to what Ashes of Creation is doing, Ashes of Creation is like, hey, come on a journey with us. We are, we're building this game. I want to show you everything we're doing. We want to show you the characters. We want to show you the creatures and the monsters, the animals, and let's show you let's let you take a peek here at the character creator, right? Well, the challenge is that you're dealing with maybe that slow burn, and the slow burn is just not interesting to watch after a while. Like initially I think people were excited. I think the change to Unreal Engine 5 got everybody excited, but now it's like, okay, cool, we've seen enough. Just go build the game, please, right? No way Starfield's releasing this year due to such a lack of content from them. But I don't think that's indicative of whether or not it's coming out. Now, people that are huge Bethesda fans said that we've actually seen way more at this point in time than they traditionally show, right? That's like a common misconception, I think. So I don't necessarily think you can jump to that conclusion. If someone lets me 60% day one, why am I hype to get everything else 3 years later, right? Cruel says, I've been keeping track of this game for the past 2 years. My only criticism is that they shouldn't show too much, or there isn't going to be much adventure. That's always the risk. So if you've been following Ashes of Creation and you're tuning in for this coverage, we're just watching the character creator and just kind of having a conversation. We'd love to hear from you if you've been following it, or take the poll at the top of the chat. But that's the risk, right? Is there's this weird balance where if you show too much, people are like, I feel like I've seen too much, or, I've seen enough and now I'm bored. How long is it going to take for this game to come out? And then like, well, we don't know, maybe a couple of years. And you're like, okay, cool. And then you have the alternative, which is what they're doing with Starfield. Bethesda's like, we're going to barely show you anything. We'll show you some in-engine stuff. It's not really gameplay. I had a bunch of people telling me that was clickbait. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we can speculate whether or not that's gameplay. It was so interesting to see like Starfield fanboys already being like, this is in-engine, it's clearly not gameplay. And I'm like, well, doesn't that irritate you then? You know? I'm an idiot. I thought you were making a person on Elden Ring. Is this an Elden Ring channel? Fallout 4 was first shown at E3 and released that fall. It's how Bethesda works. Right. Exactly. Do you want to know why I think it's struggling, or maybe not struggling is not the right word. Maybe the way they're treating Starfield is frustrating people because it's a new IP. When you get surprised by the fourth Fallout, you're like, dope. I kind of already know what the game is. I kind of already know what it's built on. You show me some gameplay and a character creator, and I'm good to go. The thing with Starfield is they're trying to sell you on like a dream, like this game's going to be unbelievable. It's going to absolutely revolutionize. And you're like, oh man, I can't wait to check this game out. But then you don't really know enough. Now, when it comes to Ashes of Creation, I think they're in a different category because it's an MMORPG. And no one's sort of in the dark about, well, what's an MMORPG? I think people are typically on a game like this more in the dark about like, okay, but what's a server going to look like? What's a content loop going to look like? Am I going to be irritated? Am I going to get killed a bunch? Am I going to lose all my stuff? Is my server going to get cannibalized, 30 days in? Lono's many things, but a clickbaiter he is not. Right. The Fallout 4 hype and then release was perfect for me. On the other hand, I was already sick of Elden Ring in the mid-2021. Yeah, I mean, there were people that were like, enough already. When it came to Elden Ring, they were like, enough already, man. We know it's a big game. We know everybody's excited, right? We still haven't gotten 200 likes on the video. Let's roll it over. We only need 2 more likes. Let's roll that over. We've also had 2 coffee sales for the day. Let's just do this. We are trying to set a daily goal for members and for coffee orders. We don't talk about it enough. So instead of me constantly kind of having a commercial for it, we go for like milestones, and we're going to have daily goals on members and coffee, just so I can periodically say it and not distract from the show. So 2 coffee orders, we need 3 more, and we haven't got any members yet. If you ever done a membership on YouTube, you click the join button. We'd love to get 5 each day. We think that's a low but doable goal every day. Most people hate when devs announce a game and show off a trailer 2 to 3 years before it's released. I appreciate how Bethesda doesn't do that. Right, and this is something different though, isn't it? There's this traditional old school video game marketing trick where they do hey, here's a teaser, or hey, here's a trailer, and you're like, okay, cool, when's it coming out? They're like, well, we think in 2 years, and you're like, okay. This is different. This is, hey, we're building this thing. You want to see us build this thing? You want to help pay for it? Cool. Come along with us on this journey here, and we're gonna build this thing, and you can be a part of it. I think it's a very different approach, but I think they both run the same risk. It's almost like consumer fatigue. It's like you hit consumer fatigue. I like Bethesda because I'm not waiting years to be disappointed. I was not disappointed, but why show Cyberpunk and then hype and then it flops hard AF? Right, we had heard about Cyberpunk for literally years. It was supposedly going to be absolutely game-changing and groundbreaking. I think across the spectrum, I think this is a totally fine way of doing it. I think what they're doing with Ashes of Creation gameplay, slowly revealing different pieces and parts, I think is totally fine. It's not like they're selling you hype. A 45-minute video on character creation is not exactly hype-inducing. It's just, oh, cool, there's Asmongold. Oh, cool, here's all the different things you can do. We've been hearing about Starfield for years. That is true. That is 100% true. We have been hearing about Starfield for a while. So I wonder, that's actually a really good point. I wonder if that's why people are super annoyed with the Starfield marketing. They're like, you didn't wait to tell us about it until 6 months prior. You didn't. You told us, you've been telling us about it for years. And so we want to see it. We want to know what's going on, right? Aren't the developers setting up to shoot themselves in the foot with letting people behind the veil, says Chesspain. People see the lengthy process and they want perfection from the game. Yeah, that's related to a point I've made before about game delays. Game delays almost passively hype a game, right? Game delays almost passively hype a game because it's like, hey, this game's going to be incredible. Why? Well, they delayed it 9 times, so it's probably going to be perfection. Oh, okay. Maybe. Maybe it'll be overbaked and terrible. I was in 8th grade when I first heard about Starfield. I'm now 45. I thought I got the Borderlands game for free on Epic, and I was just frustrated to find out differently it was not the same thing. I don't understand what you mean, Russell. 100% why I'm annoyed, says Eugene. You've been talking about this game for forever. Eugene says, put up or shut up. That's why Steven isn't setting a date, says Cruel Crusader. He wants to take feedback and further better the game. Well, yeah, and I, like... Don't you worry, though, about play... this might be controversial, but, like... Isn't player feedback a little overrated this early on? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if they're accepting feedback from the alpha and the beta, sure. But, like, player feedback's kind of overrated at a certain point. It's like, you need to have a vision for what you want. Build it, cast it, and then help people polish and tweak. Hey, you really wanted to do this one thing with this loot thing and this and that and da-da-da-da-da. All right, here's the rough edges of it. Here's why it's going to frustrate players, you know? I think there's a significant difference between, like, saying, hey, help us with feedback here, help us with this system, and letting people in way too early. Because they're going to be like, I don't know. I'm not sold on the idea that you need to be showing people and getting feedback from people so early, because I feel like it can dilute the vision and the goal and the identity of the game. Yeah, Starfield was announced at E3 2018. It was 4 years ago. Okay, they take feedback, but over the years, very minimal things have changed. Nothing core. Some stuff related to animations and others. Well, that's encouraging to hear, because that's what I would be super concerned about. Like, receiving player feedback is great, but not if you dilute your product. If you dilute your product to the point that it's indistinguishable from what it originally set out to be, it's probably not going to be a very good game. Like, that would always be my concern. It's better to get it from the start, says Cruel Crusader, because if you do it later on, you can have feedback that brings you back to rebuilding the entire game. Well, yes and no, though. Shouldn't you as a game developer have a pretty good grip and grasp on the game you want to build, and then you get influence and input on how the particulars work? I agree that Hogwarts Legacy did it near perfect. I just love that style of reveals. They showed enough to know what it's about, but not too much to keep me intrigued and guessing. Cruel Crusader says, look at New World. It runs on an HTML platform that players can manipulate through the chat, and for them to fix this, they need to rebuild the game from the base. Yo, good morning, Sandy. Welcome back. Member renewal of 13 months. Thank you so much, Sandy. Appreciate you. Right, but would that... I guess that would have been discovered in an early alpha. I guess you're right. They could have allowed people access to that game early alpha, and something like, hey man, I don't know if you realize this or not, but your game is built on HTML. That's going to be really manipulable. If you're tuning in for the Ashes of Creation discussion about the character creator, we've been periodically just kind of watching it and discussing what we think of the game. If you're interested in Ashes of Creation gameplay, we would love to hear from you. We have a poll at the top of the chat. Typically, I'm in this scene here doing a talk show, and we're about an hour into the poll, and it's pretty heavily split towards no. A lot of my audience is not interested in this game. If you're new, we want to hear from you and why you are interested. Did he already talk about the Elden Ring? We're going to be talking about that tomorrow, Max. The news hit right before I went live, so I didn't have the ability to pivot to it. Intrepid got feedback about combat during APOC, and now have reversed the decision since A1, though. So you're saying they've made changes since the... Are you talking about Ashes of Creation gameplay? Or are you talking about another game? Chesspain says, a developer should have an overarching idea of where they want the game to land. If I don't know how the game plays, how would I know what I want? That's what I mean. Like, you need... And this is kind of what I'm driving at. This is what I'm driving at. I'm not saying this is true of Ashes of Creation, but look at what happened to Anthem. Early on, they didn't have a proper vision and scope of the game. And obviously, this game is this game is certainly not in that case. They know the game they want to build. They know the type of game that they're wanting to put out. They know they want to do an MMO. They've been really good at vision casting. Like, you know what game they are trying to build. But if early on you're making significant changes or accepting feedback, it can, I think, dilute and harm your development process. So my concern would be that not that they're going to lose the identity of the game or it's going to become too diluted. My concern would be that it would hamper development efficiency. Think of it like this. When I worked for this small tech company, he was really, really fond of agile development. And the reason he was fond of agile development is, he said, oftentimes the client doesn't know what they want, and they're going to think that they know what they want, and they're going to base their scope and their project on that. And when they do that, they tend to, once you deliver the entire application or product or software, they're like, this is great, but kind of not. We need all these hundreds of thousands of changes. But if you do little iterations, you can then make those changes as you go, right? So, in the realm of this game, I think my concern would be, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, it's just something they're going to need to be on guard for. My concern for Ashes of Creation would be, how many times are you going to have to go back and rework something based on player feedback, which means you're in an eternal feedback loop of, okay, we made these changes to this core system based on player feedback. Well, the players haven't played the game to completion, so okay. But those players provided that feedback, you rework that system. Then you go back, you kick it out again, and then there's more feedback on that system. Now, somebody might say, this sounds like a recipe for polishing the game. You're really going to get everything right where it needs to go. You're going to fine-tune it. Is it going to have a Goldilocks effect? Are you going to get the temperature of the porridge and the softness of the beds just right because you're constantly accepting that feedback? Or are you going to keep going back and having to rehash, rebuild, rehash, rebuild, rehash, rebuild? That would be my concern. You would get stuck in an endless feedback loop. I can give you an example of this in a smaller way. I stopped showing logo concepts to my mods. We started saying, here's the finished product, what do you think? And then they had really good input on what the finished product was. Like, here's a logo that we think is good to go and good to use on a YouTube channel. And the mods say, ooh, I like it. What about this color? What about changing this, moving this? They're sort of bringing the polish. They're bringing the sandpaper and smoothing those rough edges. But when I had just like concepts, what ended up happening was you had 8 different opinions about like 8 different things. And so what ended up ultimately happening was, a lot of the times was we would get too much influence. So that's like the too many cooks in the kitchen kind of a thing, right? I found it was more effective to really drive and design and build a logo and be like, this is exactly what I want it to look like. And then I would put it in front of them. And that typically led to much better feedback of like, hey, this logo is basically done. So that's my main concern here. You know, like, I don't think when you look at this character creator, I don't think you're going to get feedback on this. It's going to make you go back to the drawing board. But at the same time, if you're constantly stuck in that feedback loop of, okay, I like the game, but what about this? I like the game, but what about this? I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges of our time. I think one of the biggest challenges of our time for game development is proper implementation and what's the word? It's not assimilation. I guess it's probably distillation. Like, you've got to figure out, is the player feedback good? Is it helpful? Is it giving us what we need? Or, and I've talked about this in other games. So there would be people that would criticize the system and they would keep engaging with it. I've talked about this whenever I covered Destiny. So people would be like, I hate this. There's too many layers of RNG. This is super, super frustrating. But they would keep engaging with it. Why? Because at its core, the system was something that they liked. Okay? They were merely wanting to see the system improved. So one of the biggest things you've got to do is you have to distill and sort of filter a person's feedback through the sifting bowl of their gameplay. Okay, so you're saying that this is bad or needs work or whatever. Are you saying it in the context of enjoyment? Were you playing with that system, enjoying that system, and finding it to be good, or were you finding it to be frustrating and bad? Does that make sense? So, like, I think one of the biggest challenges with feedback is purely from a distillation standpoint. Can you even understand it? The only conflicting point of feedback between Steven and the players is how he wants a degree of skill slots, maybe is what you meant to say, alongside the tab targeting, which I think will flop. But we will only see that in Alpha 2 with Rangers if they are implemented at that point. I don't really care about the character creator, says Ferryman. Just give me a fun game with a hot girl as a character. Why is that a requirement? Cyberpunk, best creator we are likely to ever see the game, but the game was garbage. If you're just tuning in and you're interested in Ashes of Creation gameplay, we're just sort of putting the character creator up as a backdrop to conversation. Would love to hear from you if you're new. Kill shots. Oh, I'm sorry, skill shots. You meant skill shots. He wants a degree of skill shots alongside with tab targeting, which I think will flop. Can you flesh that out? What do you mean by having them running alongside? I'm behind, but how many devs are there? Feedback might be serving as free Q&A. Oh, for sure. For sure. To actually aim down your shots? Steven said NPCs that we recruit, we can alter their looks as well. Oh, you can actually alter the people that you recruit? I hope Ashes puts the RPG and difficulty back into MMORPG. From everything I've heard this morning, that's kind of the goal. Combat is meant to be a mix of tab and action. Skill shots refer to the action side. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I picked up on this when we first watched gameplay. Ashes of Creation, to me, looked like they were trying to mix in action because they didn't want to be pure tab, which I kind of agree. I think you got to commit to one or the other. A lot of people won't like Ashes because of the PvX environment, and you won't have PvE servers. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit ago. Like, one of the dilemmas of having a game that's like basically PvP all of the time. One of the dilemmas for that is that's going to be the dilemma, is that, hey, you know, I just want to kind of play, you know. I don't have to worry about all this stressful stuff. And I think there's a bigger question sometimes with respect to game development. Is it okay for a game to target an audience and only that audience if it means lack of profitability? Like, I think that's the big dilemma I would have. Right? YouTube keeps taking you out of my recommendations. I have the bell on. Yeah, something's going on this morning. We've had a really crummy start, which is weird because the last time we covered this, we had a really good response. So I think YouTube might be having some issues this morning. When you're building an MMO, like the servers, the ongoing maintenance, the patches, the updates, the depth, the breadth, all that stuff that you need, is that is that something that you can support with like a small slice? Does that make sense? Like if you're doing just a small slice of the market with respect to who you're marketing toward, right? If you're marketing toward this small slice, people that like specifically are looking for just like, hey man, I want classic MMO. I don't want it to be accessible. I don't want it to be easy. You know, that's not what I'm looking for. I think you run the risk of hurting your profitability. You also run the risk of like having a full funnel. Like a game, this is where I feel like it's like a double-edged sword, because like a game like this, you need a really full funnel of players. You really need an active player base. You were first in my recommended this morning. Oh, that's good. At least it's working for some people. People like you wanting a more casual experience is why there are so little hardcore games now, and also why hardcore players need new ones bad like this one. Yeah, but listen to what I'm outlining now, Distorted. Isn't that a potential conundrum for a game like this? That in order for it to run well and be successful, both with respect to like the commercial success, the economic success, but like the internal logistics, if you're trying to have 500v500 battles and big huge fights and really populated servers and active servers, just look at what happened to New World. All it took was for people to get bored and put the game down for the servers to hit a terrible spot where they needed server mergers like end of November, and they rolled them out slowly end of December into January. Okay, so do you see what I'm getting at? And you're in a subscription model. So you're marketing the game potentially. I'm not saying that this is true. I'm just saying it's potentially. You're potentially marketing this game against the grain of the gaming player populace right now. Potentially. And you need people to subscribe and stay on the servers and stay going and stay playing, because if you don't, then how's New World doing? I think last I checked, they were barely cracking 24,000 players a day. Barely. Last I checked. New World Steam charts indicate that they hit 37,000 players in the last 24 hours. Now consider that. Now, remember, that's a weekend. So they've been hitting high 20,000s, mid 30,000s every day. It's an unfair comparison. New World was such a broken game on release. No. I'm not making comparison. You got to listen to what I'm saying. I'm applying a principle here. So let me restate it so that we're clear. I'm not making an unfair comparison. I'm giving an example, and there's a difference. The example I'm giving is if the player base dries up or can't be maintained, it's immediately damaging to the player experience. Okay? It's immediately damaging. So, if Ashes of Creation is marketing to a smaller slice of the player community out there, the gaming community is this, let's imagine it's this big giant pie, and they're saying, we're marketing Ashes of Creation gameplay to a smaller slice of that pie. People that want a more traditional, a more classic style MMO. It's going to be hardcore. PvP is on all the time. We're gonna really go back to like, we're gonna make an MMO for MMO fans. Okay. The question is that slice big enough to fill the funnel so that in 2 to 3 months after it releases, you have that recurring player base to keep your servers healthy, to keep the game going? And I only pointed to New World because the point I was making with New World is like how easy it is for a player base to shrink, and then once that happens, you're in the downward spiral. You see what I'm saying? Because, like, basically, player-based exodus has a compounding effect. And the compounding effect is if people leave your game and your server starts to have not enough people in it, what happens is other people start leaving because they're like, well, the server's not really active, my friends have stopped playing, and so it can have a compounding effect, which makes player exodus, very rapid. It can be extremely rapid because you're basically dealing with. I hate my hair right now. I absolutely hate my hair. It looks freaking terrible. It makes it rapid. You can't keep the funnel full. There are 7 sanctioned PvP activities. Those battles for castles and nodes do not occur with frequency that cause people to become war weary. The OMG hardcore is by people who haven't gone deep yet. How many concurrent players do you think a game needs? Isn't New World still top 50 game played? Well, but again, that's all relative. Being a top 50 game played doesn't mean servers have anything going on right now, right? The point that I'm making is I'm not trying to be like a doomsdayer. This is the reality. We said this when New World came out. If you lose players too quickly, your game dies because you can't keep the servers full. And then you got to server migrate, which when you server migrate, you completely undo a lot of what people have invested in or hope to invest in because now they're getting shoved into some other server. Risic coming in with 8 months. Double Dip Club, let's keep it going. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I watched Asmon check out New World and the game was dead in comparison before. Yeah, it is depressing. It's like, my gosh, look how easy it is for a game to have overwhelming success. Success to the point that their servers can't even keep up, and then they're dead. You know what I mean? Thank you, Risic, again for doing 8 months. It's a tier 3, and you're double dipping. That's very generous. We are trying to do daily goals now of 5 coffee sales and 5 members. We've got 2 coffee sales already, and we got no members. So who wants to be the first member? Hit that join button or use the join command in chat. Also, push us to the next milestone of 300 likes if you haven't pressed like yet and you're enjoying the show. That helps out the stream. Is 24,000 enough for a game where everyone is on the same server pool? Yes. Is it enough when people are split like crazy and some servers have less than 100 players? Exactly. That's the point. I pre-ordered Ashes in 2017, says Scott Irving, before they said that the game was going to be like, and I believe they will put in PvE servers because they do know there's a large group of players like me, says Scott. 8 months from D-Tom says Double Dip Club. And then 8 months from Savage Sharkbite says hit the join button. Thank you guys for renewing those memberships and rejoining. But that game was community oriented, and like I said, it wasn't a complete game on launch. See, I think you keep going back to the comparison, and I'm not doing a comparison. Make up another game in your mind. Instead of calling it New World, call it Space Station. And Space Station comes out and is really popular, but people lose interest. Now, people lose interest for different reasons, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that, like, oh, the game didn't have a good end game or the game didn't have this. People just lose interest. They naturally drift, right? Everybody's really hyped for the first couple of weeks. Everybody grinds like crazy for the first couple of weeks, and then they start playing less often. And you have multiple factors here. You have a subscription fee that might drive people away. They're like, well, I can't play as much as I used to, so yeah, I'm going to walk away. You know, I just can't put the time in anymore on Space Station, so I'm taking a break. You know, I'm taking a break. And then when that person takes a break, then their friends take a break. And then their other friends take a break. And then it just starts to precipitate. So the point that I'm making is not that this game will be just like New World. It's you have to look at that reality. The reality being that when people start leaving, taking breaks, or playing less often, it has this like a compounding, like precipitous effect. Is that the word? Like you're just pushing further and further and further down that funnel. And that's what I want to know. What have they thought about that? You are marketing this game to a slice of the gaming market. So you're already starting, in my mind, you're already starting at maybe the right word is not disadvantage. You're already starting off with a narrow funnel. You've narrowed your funnel potentially. Now there is a principle to apply here that I actually think is rather true, and it is the principle of, if your funnel and your identity is too broad, then your game will appeal to nobody. Put another way, if you try to appeal to everyone, you will appeal to no one, right? If your game's identity is too broad, if your game's identity is almost, you can't really distinguish it or figure out what in the world the game is, then the game will potentially appeal to no one, right? So there's like this happy medium in the middle. You've got to have a funnel that is broad enough to be consistently filled and maintained, but narrow enough that your identity is clear. Do you see what I'm driving at? Like, think of it this way. There's two extremes. If your funnel is too narrow, you will never get enough people in there to sustain the machine. Right? The machine of an MMO. You need people constantly in there. You need the servers popping. You need new player acquisition. You need, old player reacquisition. You need current player incentivization. You need all these things well in hand for the engine. Imagine the engine's down here. That engine's got to run, okay? And you attach a funnel to it. And the more narrow that funnel is, the harder you make it to keep the funnel full. If it's too broad, then the game has no identity. It appeals to everybody. Well, no, that's not going to work, because there's no loyalty there. The game doesn't have an identity. Its vision's not firmly grounded, so people are just like, yeah, I can take this game or leave it. It's not memorable, right? You have to find that happy medium. You don't want to be too narrow. You don't want to be too broad. You got to be somewhere in the middle. And the minute you say, we're doing a subscription-based, more classic, hardcore MMO. We're making an MMO for fans of MMOs. You've chosen a narrow funnel. That doesn't mean the funnel's too narrow. It's a challenge that the game will face. I think every game faces a challenge, right? You got to know what your challenge is that you're facing. If you're short and you want to play basketball, that's going to be a challenge for you. If you're exceptionally tall and lanky, that might be a challenge if you try to be, a running back, because you're not going to have that low center of gravity. You're not going to be this big beefy train that's hard to stop. You're gonna, you know what I'm saying? So if you choose narrow funnel and you want to make an MMO, you have to know that's a challenge we're going to face with this game. I think with inflation driving people to work harder, people have even less time to game. I do think that's a potential reality as well, like the global reality of like people just working more. I think there's two things contributing to less people wanting to do hardcore MMOs. I think number one, I think the generation, all the guys that I graduated from high school with, I graduated in 2000. That's 20 years ago, okay? So all the guys I graduated from high school with, we're all now entering our 40s, okay? And that's the generation that cut their teeth on EverQuest and World of Warcraft, right? And they're all in their 40s now. So they're at a stage of life where it's more difficult to put those hours in. They have a full-time job, maybe. Maybe they have a full-time job and they're married. Maybe they have kids. Maybe they're trying to get married, Maybe they're just loving the bachelor life. Wherever they are on that spectrum, they're a little bit more busy when they were in high school, right? And could no-life the game over the weekend and, barely pass their classes because they're playing every night, okay? So I think that generational reality is there. I think a lot of people have said, dude, I can't play MMOs like I used to play them. It's just not freaking possible. I don't have the time, okay? I think the second factor is also economic and cultural. I think there are economic and cultural realities now that has people working more often. They're busier. They're plugging away, putting more hours in. They need to put in more hours, right? They're working 2 jobs, multiple jobs, whatever. You know, I think on average, hours clocked per week is at a higher end for my generation than my dad's generation. I think my dad's generation was in that healthy 40 to 50 slot. I think we're in the 50. We're in the 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 hour slot. I think the amount of hours clocked per week has gone up for the average person. Well, in America, maybe not the rest of the world. I think in the West, that's gone up. I could be wrong, but I'm certain that I've seen reports about this, like people working more, making less, and working more, and leading to psychological issues, nationally. And I think this is one of the reasons that podcasts have become more popular. If you just think of it in the realm of entertainment, like podcasts are ridiculously popular because being an overworked and in a populace that's too busy, it's incredibly easy to consume podcasts. So when I look at Ashes of Creation, and I hear somebody say, "Yeah, I'm making an MMO game for MMO players. This gonna harken back to the old school MMOs. You have to put a lot of hours in." I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if the populace can support that. You know what I mean? I picked up Elden Ring this weekend, and I'm sorry for the rage I caused you. It turns out maybe it's not the weapon. This game just cheats. What are you getting? Who's cheating you? I do think the game cheats sometimes. Not like literally, but it does cheat. It does. It does cheat sometimes. It does. The game's a cheater. Once you accept that From Software games are cheaters, it gives you a greater sense of pride in beating them. I loved RPGs and MMOs when I was in high school and college. I'd love to play again, but I ain't got time for that. Right, I'm just curious, how many people in here that took the poll, if you could chime in chat, I don't want to do another poll. I want to know how many of you played games like this in the past, but now you can't. So you're like, no, I can't play this game, or I'm not interested in this game. I want to know, is that something that was different when you were younger? I bet you that it's very, very different now, comparatively. Not cheating, but the stuttering on the Tree Sentinel's painful. And God forbid you aggro 3 dudes. Why are you getting stuttering on Tree Sentinel? Are you playing on PC? Game just doesn't attract my attention. Heavy Metal Mama says me. Somebody says I. B-Max raising his hand. Dwayne says absolutely. Definitely does cheat. All From Software games cheat. Definitely me, says Gorthysis. I played WoW and EverQuest nonstop years ago. Colin says, I played World of Warcraft. Never again can I dedicate to an MMO. Hey, oh, you are playing on PC. Hex says, Final Fantasy is the only MMO for me because I can play it about an hour or 2 a day. I wasted my life on EverQuest, says Shane, and I'm not doing that again. Sorcerer of Havoc says me. Even having a hard time keeping up with old games you used to cover because of work life, TBH. Oh, yeah. How many people right now have a backlog? You're not even interested in MMOs. You don't even play MMOs. How many people right now have a backlog that you can't get to? After an entire year of delays and non-launches, you still have a backlog. Do you remember that the 2 guys who started off making this game started doing so as a passion project, funded by their own personal money, not a mega corporation like Amazon focused all on profit? MMOs are a young man's game. I have a backlog, says Hex. I don't disagree, Lono, but people are still putting in more hours than ever in games. I hate mentioning them, but look at D2 and how many people are playing Unreal Hours. Well, I mean, pointing to unhealthy behavior. Sure, I think all games have pockets of people doing that. Not enough time to catch up, says Abe. No time anymore for lengthy MMOs. My wife and kids don't allow it. Sad face, says Dem Rivers. I've had a backlog since I got married 11 years ago. I've had a backlog for 11 years. Every gamer has a backlog unless you're very narrow in the games that you play. I'm younger, but still playing MMO games seem too much effort, says Saxboy. Breath of the Wild 2 is really the only game I was waiting on, and it got delayed again. I'm so backlogged with games on PC and console. Major backlog. I have no backlog, says Zach. It took me some time to get through God of War, playing a few hours every few days, and that was just playing the storyline and not really venturing outside of that, says Chess Pain. Yeah, even a game like God of War, Immortals Phoenix Rising, Assassin's Creed, Horizon Forbidden West, if you play these games even remotely completionist and you have a regular rhythmic life, there's no frickin' way. There's no frickin' way you're going to beat him quickly. Couple hours a night, are you kidding me? I got one. Elden Ring has me hooked right now. Trying to doing a raid in an MMO with kids constantly in your face. No thank you, says Kenpachi. I got to play Luigi's Mansion with my kids this weekend. Oh man, my kids and I loved that game. Super, super fun. My kids really liked Kirby. They just didn't like the fact that they had to take turns being Kirby. That was a bit of a point of contention, but it's a good life lesson. You can't always be the all-star. Somebody has to play second fiddle, and they have to take turns playing second fiddle. I think it's good for them, but that was the main complaint that they had. They both wanted to be Kirby and absorbing the different abilities. I finished Horizon Forbidden West last night, 73% completion, 80 hours. Jiminy Christmas. That's almost 1% per hour. That's pretty good. There's an easy 30-ish hours left. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. With a newborn, says Michael, I have to weigh sleep or having fun catching up on a new MMO. Right? I have no backlog, just Elden Ring, now that I'm done with Waste of Time Lost Ark. I really, really like Lost Ark. I'm super bummed that we couldn't keep riding it, you know? Yo, if you're new and you haven't smashed the like button, or you've been around for a while this morning and you forgot to smash the like button, do me a favor and do that. We've had sort of a slow day for some reason. I thought this was a pretty popular topic and we were going to dial it in, but man, this is not working. We're going to pump the brakes on Ashes next time they release anything and just see what demand is. We may be able to turn, though, at least 300 likes. We'll be bumping the Elden Ring gameplay a little faster this morning than usual. It took me 200 hours to platinum Elden Ring. Got to put that down for some time now. Good to know about Kirby. My kids want that game. I didn't know how it was. Might pick it up for my next birthday. Yeah, you're going to have to let them know before they play it that, like, one person is Kirby and one person is a guy with like a spear. Now, the guy with the spear can do all kind of cool stuff with his spear, right? But he ain't Kirby, so you're not getting to like absorb the guy with the ice, the fire, or the blades, or the sword, or whatever. You're not getting to do that. You're just sort of always on the spear. So my kids quickly agreed. My son at first was like, "Oh, I don't care. I'm totally fine to use the spear." And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to last. And it didn't. As soon as he saw his sister doing some cool stuff with Kirby, he changed his mind extremely quickly. He was like, yeah, I want to be Kirby. So they started taking turns, which obviously she was annoyed by, because she was like, you know, she thought she was going to get to be Kirby the whole time. So that was a bit of a disagreement. But they settled it. Like, it was good. It was good for them. That's something we've been working on recently, is like fairness in the house, you know? Like, it's simply impossible to keep everything like perfectly even and fair distribution. It's like, it's not possible. I'm crossing my fingers they pick me for the beta. Oh, actually, all you have to do is pre-register and then you can play early. Wait, no, you might have to not be able to play early. My bad. Oh, yeah. The perks of pre-registering. You might be invited, to try Diablo Immortal. Yeah. Your kids are lucky. My parents didn't let me game until I was 15. They only get to play on the weekends, like once, basically. Dying Light 2 is in my backlog. I so want to play it. Less sleep and then have time for my kids, family, and work. Yeah, right. Rudy says, I just don't have the same vigor to no-life games like I did when I was young. MMOs don't hold my attention like they used to. There's something weird that I think just happens to people after they've been grinding games for a while. I think I don't know if you do this. This is what I do. So I basically grind the game like crazy for the first week. And then after that, it's almost like I can't anymore. It's like I 100-meter dash, and then I'm like, yeah, that's the end of it. Do you know what I'm saying? There's almost like there's this weird unspoken, and again, this is just how I experience it. There's this weird unspoken, it's not attention span. It's like there's this weird unspoken care. I only care about the game for a couple of weeks. And then I'm like, cool, man, put you back on the shelf. I'm good. That was fun. But I just really struggle. Now, certain games aren't like that. Like Elden Ring, I'm telling you, we've got to consider that, right? We got to be careful because I'm a YouTuber, so I got to be careful. I'm not like accidentally self-destructing the channel by like too much Elden Ring. But it's like that's one game that kind of didn't happen with. It's like I'm gonna just keep plugging away, keep plugging away, keep plugging away. Maybe I'll feel different once I beat it. My backlog exists of every PlayStation game because I cannot get a PS5. That's ADHD? I think that's a complete misuse of the term. No. I don't think losing interest in a game after 2 weeks is ADHD, right? Serious question or observation. Do you think you've adapted to that mindset you just described because of being a content creator versus a regular gamer? No, because I'm that way off. Well, I don't know. How do you unweave your own mental development? Like, because I've been a content creator for 7 or 8 years now. So do I do it? No, it's 8 years. Yeah, I've been a content creator for 8 years now. So do I do it because over the past 8 years, it's informed my care or attention span? Or have I always been that way? I feel like I've always been that way. I know I did that with Borderlands 2 before I was a content creator. I played like crazy for a couple of weeks. Well, no. Me and my buds played Borderlands 1. My wife and I played Borderlands 1 and then Borderlands 2 for way longer than just a couple of weeks. I wonder if it is. I wonder if it's content creation that put me on like a 2-week cycle of... And it funny enough, hasn't happened with Elden Ring. Lono trying to remember what it's like to be pre-been on camera. Right. Pre-camera life is over 8 years ago. It'd have been prior to 2014 for me. I think my very first video I ever put up was 2014. February of 2014. That's what I'm thinking. Your approach to gaming is because there's just certain games you only have that window to play, and then it's shelved and on to the next title. Yeah, and you know what's funny is certain titles break out of that. Ghost of Tsushima broke out of that. I would have played Ghost of Tsushima with you guys for a month if the support would have been there. Like, look at what I'm doing with Elden Ring. Like, when did we start streaming Elden Ring gameplay? Like, when was the very, very first time? I don't even remember now. Elden Ring gameplay was 1 month ago. It looks like. Yeah, it was 1 month ago. The first day I played was, hang on, I gotta maximize the window here. February 24th. So yeah, we made it well beyond 1 month. It's February the 24th, it looks like. Yeah, Returnal too. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, certain games break out of it. I'm like, yeah, bro, I would play this game every dadgum day if the support was there. That's how I was with fighting games. I used to be up to gremlin hours playing them. Now I only play 1 to 2 hours in a session and I'm good. Yeah, it's like your tolerance goes down too. You're just like, yeah, I'm good. We need 30 more likes for 300 likes, man. Try and smash it if you haven't done so yet. Distorted says, it's sealed by someone called Maggie. Stuck at what door? Oh, stuck at a door. Yo, it's good, Demetrius. Anybody who is worker, lurker, or member, or longtime member, I just want everybody to spam their favorite emote right now. I want to see something. I'm testing something with our emotes. I have one MMO per decade rule. I get involved with one MMO type game per decade, and I play that one title out until I can't stand it anymore. Got it. So Hex is going with Lono Keck. Lono Lol, okay. There's a Work and Lurk. Lono Roast. The coffee ones, Bald, Work and Lurk. Eugene's favorite is Bait. That's not one of mine. Okay, Lono Lol, Lono Actually. Lono Dope, Work and Lurk, Lono Keck. Lono Pog, Lono Dope. Work and Lurk, Bald and Actually. Madam. Work and Lurk and Dope. The Bag. I forgot about the Bag. Lono Lewd. Okay. All right. There's a good mixture there. Lono Toxic. Yeah. There we go. I wonder, can you get the Lono Roast? I felt like there was a time where you could get them to go back to back. Is it possible? No, it messes it up. Yeah, it messes it up. You have to put the space. There was a time, I forget, that might have been in Discord where you could like remove the space. You missed Trash Parrot? I dig them all, actually. I just wanted to see if you picked one right off the cuff and you were like picking a favorite, which one you would pick. Here's my emote. Yeah, there you go. Eyeballs. Just kidding. I know what those are. This dude's maidenless, man. This guy's definitely maidenless. He thought those were eyeballs. Okay, you can on Discord. That's where it was you could do it. Okay. All right. Can we get a Lono wait until? Wait until. Yeah, there it is, Distorted. Yeah, that looks so good. That looks so good when they're like actually touching. I paid for a super chat, but it never went through in chat. Much love. I'm gonna bow out to game with my friends this morning. No worries, Gorthysis. Yeah, I don't know why it didn't come through. I don't know. I check my dashboard too. I don't see it there. Although my favorite is probably Lono Late. Lono Lewd, Lono Think, Lono Keck. Am I supposed to interpret what that means? Is that a secret encoded message? I use Lono Baked all the time. Oh yeah, Lono Baked. That was a good one. Thinking they're eyeballs is pretty maidenless energy, to be fair. Those are owl eyes. Oh yeah, they're owls. Yeah, that's right. Owl eyes. Sure. Sure. Yeah, I thought Trash Parrot was a good one. Lono Trash Parrot was a good one. That was a good that was a good emote. That was. Not one person said Badger. Omega's really mad. I killed that dude for calling me maidenless. Hex is like, how dare you? Yeah. We need Cinnamon Toast Frick. Cinnamon Toast Frick wouldn't fit though. Like, how on earth would you even do that as an emote? That'd be too many words. I'm still waiting for Lono out. What, like when people say, and for that reason I'm out, like that meme? Or are you thinking of another meme? I'm still waiting for the underrated dadgum emote to come back personally. Yeah, man. That was a good one. Where's the hype emote? I don't think we did the hype one because it's like it's too... I don't know. It's just too generic. Do we have Lono hype? I don't think we do. No, we don't. Let's go to that. Lono is disappointed about Melania. Here's the thing, Lido. I wouldn't be surprised if I went back and faced her a second time on New Game Plus and was like, all right, I'm going to take the time to learn everything, right? I love your saying boiling frogs, by the way. Thank you. I wouldn't be surprised if I go back and like I feel a little bit differently about it. But I still, at a ground level, I just dislike flurries that if you misread the flurry, it's so close to a death sentence. Like, just at a philosophical level, I don't like that. I don't like if you misread an animation and the grab is like 75%, 80% of your health bar. I've never liked that because it creates this power dynamic in the fight that I find to be incredibly unpleasant because you basically have to keep yourself at full health all the time. And I think that creates an incredibly like flat tire to the fight. Do you know what I'm saying? There's just an automatic flat tire when you're like, bro, I literally have to be full health all the time. Because if you catch me in a flurry and I'm at 67% of my health, I'm dead. If you grab me and kebab me with your sword and I'm at 72% of my health, I'm dead. That's so stupid. Creating this power dynamic where I am constantly having to earn the right to get back to full health, I just don't like it. I get it. You want to keep the player on their heels, right? You know, you want to keep the player in a position of like constantly feeling that threat of, if I make a mistake, I'm dead. I just don't think it's a healthy power dynamic. You can mitigate the flurry. I didn't say that you can't. I said that if you misread it, it's basically a guaranteed chunk of your health gone. Just like if you misread her animation and she grabs you and kebabs you with her sword, it's like an automatic certain percentage of your health is gone. And it creates, I think, a flat tire power dynamic where I constantly have to stay at full health. And I don't think that that's fun. So then instead of reading animations and dueling and feeling like we're in a fight, I'm like, oh, you chunked me to 65%. And now I'm scrambling to get to full health. I think it's unhealthy. I don't think it's a healthy rhythm. I think it's annoying. Games are about reading animations. I don't think you're even remotely grappling with my criticism. My criticism is not that I have to learn animations. You're not engaging with what I'm saying. The mistake isn't in line with the punishment. Misreading an animation and losing 75% of your health bar is too extreme because it creates an unhealthy power dynamic. I have to always be at full health. I totally agree with your opinion on Melania and totally disagree with your opinion on Radon. My opinion on Radon has changed a little bit. I think he's meant to be a bit of a gimmicky fight. I think if you want to go in and just face off with him and fight him toe-to-toe, that's meant for, like, the rare elite players. It's meant to be, like, no, you go in and summon people. It's supposed to be this big battle. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, but with Melania, there's fights like Melania where if you don't keep yourself at full health, the slightest misstep, you're dead and you got to start over. And that's literally the stereotype of Dark Souls, is dying, start over, dying, start over. And it's like, I prefer fights where, oops, made a mistake, no worries, you know, I'll recover. Give me a second here. I'll navigate. Okay, I rolled behind them, heal. Or I rolled away and they just finished a really long animation, heal. Like, but when you constantly have to stay at full health, it means any of the slightest mistakes, what it does is, I'm really fleshing this out for the first time. The slightest mistake does two things. It requires you to immediately heal, Why? Because if you make another slight mistake, you're dead. So all it takes is two of the slightest mistakes. Oops, I misread that one. She chunked me. I'm now at 70% of my health bar. Now I must heal. If I misread another animation and it's a flurry, I am dead. If it's a grab, I am dead. So just give me 2 hit bars at that point. Like, just take me back to old school Nintendo. Give me 2 red hit bars at the top and call it a day. You know what I'm saying? It's this illusion. It's this illusion of like, yeah, you're in a fight. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You need me to stay full health the whole time. Because if I don't stay full health all the time, she's going to grab me. She's going to kebab me, and I'm dead. Back to the beginning because I misread one animation. That's how Black Knife Assassin is? Yeah, Black Knife Assassin was really frustrating for that reason. I'm not trying to argue with you, but the alternative is game is too easy. No, that's a false dichotomy. I don't believe what I'm saying leads to the other extreme of making the game too easy. I don't think grabs should be able to do that much health damage, and I don't think flurries should be able to do that much health damage. I just don't think so. I think there's other pain they could put in the game. Hey man, she grabbed you, so you're going to have a bleed effect for the next 30 seconds. Oh man, she got you with the flurry. There's going to be some form of an in-fight punishment for that. Not, yeah dude, you misread an animation. There goes 75% of your health bar. I think people forget that Radon is not a normal nose fight. It's set up to be a warrior's festival to take down the most powerful demigod. Right, and when I realized that, Distorted, people basically convinced me that like that fight is meant to be different and anomalous, to the same degree that the guy in the bottom of Volcano Manor is meant to be different. I agree on grabs. I've been getting grabbed by Ulcerated Tree Spirit. You can mitigate damage on some grabs by button mashing. It ends quicker and you take less damage. I mean, yeah, I guess. I've never liked that either. I hate that in action-adventure games where in the middle of the fight I'm like smashing the B button like some kind of a crazy person. I think Elden Ring is too easy. Horse combat makes fights trivial. I just use horse against dragons with large AoE. Yeah, I don't think it makes them trivial. I think it creates a realistic representation of what you would have to do if you fought a dadgum dragon. Such a selfish POV. How do you think those enemies feel when you just keep chopping their ankles? I bet they hate that crap. I think that's why I as angry as I got in Sekiro, I think Sekiro's combat system is superior. I think Sekiro's combat system is superior because it requires the player to actually duel the bosses and the bad guys and the enemies, as opposed to ankle chopping or like, this is what I had to do in Cinder, and this is what I had to do in the Dancer, and this is, you just run away. Their flurries are so absurd, just run away. And the Dancer had a grab that was obscene too. It's like zombie guys who bite you take 75% of your health and FP. Well, I just... Out in the open world, I think sloppy play grabs are maybe more acceptable. The problem in a boss fight is the capital spent. That's why I get so tilted. I spend so much capital to get to your second phase, to get you to your final 10%, and I make a single mistake, and you get to just absolutely chunk me, or in some cases, just kill me. Why? One mistake. I don't know. It feels disproportionate. I do like how some dragons, excuse me, if you catch them right in the head, it'll knock them out. Yeah, and that's a huge risk you can take. You can risk chopping their head for the big stuns, or you can angle chop them and it takes longer. It requires finessing. Magic made the game too easy for me. I played Glass Cannon and barely anything could really touch me. Really got to play Sekiro from all the praise I've heard about it. Maybe not directly after Elden Ring. Like, people made this point in the Melania fight. They're like, well, if Lono could have summoned at Ishin, he would have done it, and he never would have truly seen how good the fight was. And I'm like, okay, maybe you're right, because I have low endurance, and I'm impatient, and I'm prone to getting pretty frustrated. That's just in my nature. It's in my personality, right? I tend to overreact and get angry and impatient. It's something I've worked on my entire life, okay? It's a character flaw, right? I think, objectively look at what was frustrating me with Melania, and it was different than what was frustrating me with Ishin. Ishin was frustrating me because of all the number of phases. So it really, really took huge chunks of investment. Ishin was not grabbing me and insta-killing me. Ishin was not making the camera freak out. It wasn't. The only time I got irritated in Ishin with the camera, there was a couple of times where I tried to do the lightning, and I think twice it acted squirrely on me. And I was like, what the frick was that? Like, that should always favor the player in that fight, because that fight's ridiculous. That's the hardest fight I've ever had to play in a video game. And so with Melania, it was like, dude, I can't tell what's happening. Like, the camera, I don't know what's going on. You can dodge that. Yeah, and the time that I tried, I could barely tell what was happening. It makes it incredibly hard to see the timing and the rhythm when the camera's freaking out. Her other stuff doesn't bother me. Like, I think the getting health back, just compounds the whole problem, right? It just compounds the whole problem. It's a very, very slanted seesaw, because she gets her health back anytime she hits you, and the power dynamic is you have to stay at full health. I don't know how much there is to like about a fight like that. As that fight's really, really hard to like. Really hard to like. It's like, if you gotta stay at full health, because she's got a handful of moves in her moveset that if she catches you with them, you're dead. Right? You're dead if you don't stay at full health. And if she touches you, she gets her health back. She gets pieces of her health back. They're just making that fight really, really hard to like. I feel like depending on the boss, you have to take off target lock so the camera doesn't go crazy. Yeah, and that's not really a pushback, is it? Stop using a tried and true mechanic in the game because the camera's going to bug out. I don't agree with that either. So many From Software evangelists take that route. Well, just don't lock, dude. Like, oh, okay. Let's excuse bad mechanics by turning them off. Like, if the HUD was terrible and awful and glitchy and causing you to lose fights because it would glitch out and get in the way, just turn the HUD off, bro. What? How about having a HUD that doesn't run like crap? You ever consider maybe they should do that? Do you know what I'm saying? We're about to get into it. We're about to get into the game anyway. I've got a bunch of Stonesword keys, and I got a bunch of stones. We're going to try and max out my my swords today and continue pressing on to the end game of Elden Ring. I'm going to quickly run upstairs, use the restroom. I'll be right back, and we will get into it. You're playing the same game everyone else is? Yeah, so? I don't understand. How many From Software fans say they love certain boss fights, but they'll be like, yeah, man, the camera's really annoying. Or they turn the camera lock off. So what point are you making? You're playing the same game everyone else is. Yeah, and that's like, what's the number one complaint about a From Software game, typically, is the camera. Or input dropping. Like, pick one. So, yeah, I am playing the same game everybody else is. And they almost always concede that the camera's trash in certain areas and certain things. And it causes frustration and mistakes. Because you can't tell what in the world's going on. So, All right, I'm going to quickly go upstairs. If 15 more likes will get us to 300, smash that like button. This thing may get some traction as a VOD. I'm going to hit some ads. We almost never run ads here. We've had 2 coffee orders today and no members. We're trying to get about 5 coffee orders a day and 5 members. If you've never done a membership on YouTube, consider hitting the join button or using the join command. I'll be right back, and we'll be diving into some Elden Ring. Oh. Okay. Let us do this. Let's see. I forget. We're in an underground place in the game. Like I saved it to where I would be at a good place to get some of these stones. I think we're just going to keep rocking the 2 swords that we have and the bleed and everything else. Okay. Go here. Put tweet. Diving into more Elden Ring endgame. Okay. Wait, what's happening? Is it doing the thing it did a couple weeks ago? Oh no, there it goes. Okay, I thought it was doing the thing a couple weeks ago where like I wasn't going to be able to go live. I was like, here we go. That would have explained this morning, like YouTube might have been acting up, but it seems to be fine. You need a somber ancient dragon smithing stone. Worst bosses to me so far are Nox Twins, 2 Crucible Knights, and the Crystal Duo. Playing a 2-handed Claymore only, no shield, no summons, no range. All duos are pain. Yeah, any of the duo bosses, I think, are pretty much designed to just really, really be tough. It's just one of those things where they've intentionally, I think... Hang on. Alright, just making sure we're getting some audio. Okay, turn that off. I'm going to put a link in chat just in case redirect's not working. YouTube was acting up on a few other streams this morning. It might have been YouTube. Like I usually, anytime we run new gameplay, new anything for big popular games, we crush it. And then today we got nowhere. All right, there is a link in chat. Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. We are going to continue with our Elden Ring gameplay. Currently, we are down in the Yellow Annex Tunnel. YOLO! And we are looking for stones, and we are basically in the end game trying to get our swords maxed out and just continuing. I got a bunch of Stones Word keys off stream, hoping that really helps us land in some of those